Thank you very much for your time, sir.
It's a pleasure. Welcome.
Ghana migrated onto the use of biometric passports in 2010. Could you please tell us something briefly about the whole exercise?
Yes, thank you very much. That is very correct. We migrated from what we call the machine-readable passports. Now, machine-readable passports were just simply passports that were issued, that had been issued from the very onset of issuance of passports by the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. And these were, you purchase the forms, you come to the passport office with your passport pictures. So the applicant was required under that type of passport to come along with passport pictures, to have it processed. But by 2004, 2005, a decision was taken by the government of Ghana that we should migrate from these machine-readable passports to a more secure type of passport. Now, we consider two types of secure passports. That is the chip-embedded passport, where the personal details of the applicant will be captured in a chip within the passport. Now, that is considered to be more secure in terms of the security and the integrity of the passport. Now, the other one is what we call the 2D barcode, where the personal details of the applicant are put on the barcode, so that anytime it is put on a scanner, the scanner will then recognize the details of the applicant within the barcode. So the Ghana government decided to go with the 2D barcode and not the chip embedded. So by 2009, a pilot program was done where we started the issuance of 2D barcode diplomatic passports and service passports. But by 2010, we went full-fledged issuance of biometric passports to the general public. So we started issuing biometric passports to the Ghanaian public in 2010. And since then, it has been biometric passports that we issue mainly in Ghana to Ghanaians.
So what happens to the old passports? Are they still in use?
Yes, the old passports, which are the machine-readable passports, are still valid for use in any country. Now, most of our missions which are not equipped to issue biometric passports are still allowed to issue the machine-readable passports, and these are acceptable everywhere. But gradually, we are going to phase them out when all the diplomatic missions abroad are given the capacity to be able to issue biometric passports. Those will be phased out. But for now, they are still valid and they are in use.
Okay. I asked because I read that the International Civil Aviation Organization issued a statement that it ceases to be in operation by 2015.
Okay. So, thank you very much. That is quite true. But there are two angles to the machine-readable passports. The machine-readable passports themselves are still acceptable even under ICAO. But what ICAO refers to is the passports which were not machine readable, they were handwritten. Those ones have ceased to be in existence and we no longer issue them. But these ones which we still issue, which are black and they start with the letter H, are still in use and they are valid. So we use them side by side together with the biometric passports.
Let's talk about your operations at the Passports Office. What are, in your day-to-day operations, what are some of the challenges that the office is faced with?
Yeah. So some of the challenges we face day-to-day is power outages, which affect our performance.
So.
Yes. Well, you can put it that way. But power outages, fortunately, we have a standby generator, but the capacity of the generator is not big enough because our operations have expanded. So there are pending requests to the ministry for a better generator to be provided to the passport office. And once we have a big capacity generator, we should be able to handle that anytime, electricity, we encounter power outages from PDS. So that is a major challenge. Sometimes when it happens, we have to shut down our server, because the generator doesn't have enough capacity to be able to carry the load of all the servers. So
that obviously affects applicants and you as an organization.
Yes, it affects the delay. It delays the processing of the passports, and then sometimes we have to send applicants away because we don't have sufficient power to be able to process them. So that is the way it affects applicants, and that can be very frustrating. So we are working hard to be able to get a bigger capacity standby generator, so that anytime we have difficulties with PDS, we can quickly use our standby generator to fix the issue. Now, the other problem has to do with middlemen who come here to disrupt our work. Now, some of them are not your typical middleman that you see and recognize that this is a middleman.
And when you say middlemen, you mean the guru boys?
You mean people who present themselves to applicants that they can assist them or they can facilitate the processing of their passports. These are unauthorized people who do not work with a passport office, but this is how they present themselves. Admittedly, it seems that they work with people here to help them because, of course, somebody cannot just walk here and come and say, I want to process a passport for an applicant. In what capacity? So it seems that there are people who help them to do that. We are aware of this problem, and constantly we've been trying to flush out both the middlemen and then even those of our staff who are found cooperating with them or collaborating with them to do these things. When it comes to our attention, the burden has always been that we need victims of those people to come forward to us and provide us with more information, to be able to name people that on this day, this particular time, I encountered this person who purported to be able to help me to get a passport. Then we can get to the bottom of the matter. By that information, we'll be able to tell who in this building or the other passport offices aid them to do that. But in many cases, people are reluctant to come forward and come and name names.
Very typical of us as Ghanaians.
Absolutely. I agree with you.
So we will come to the issue of middlemen. For now, let's talk about the passport application centers. Yesterday, I had the privilege of going on tour with the Foreign Affairs Minister and yourself, your good self, and with some officials from your office in inspection of some of the facilities in two places, actually, the Eastern region and Tema. What really has necessitated you to establish those facilities in those regions?
Well, since we began the issuance of passports, it had always been done in the regional immigration offices, even before the onset of the biometric passport. So if you were in, say, Upper East region, Bolgatanga, and you needed to process a passport, you had to go to the regional immigration office, submit your form, they collect these forms, forward them to Accra, and the passports are processed and returned. Now, this arrangement is in consonance with government decentralization policy. So as in other services, we provide a service. Passport issuance is a service to Ghanaians. So why should we stay in Accra and then process and distribute passports? So government thought that as part of general decentralization policy, passport is an important area that should also be extended to the doorsteps of people. So this time around, the difference is that unlike in the past where it was immigration offices which were processing, government has now established passport offices. So it's no longer being done at the immigration office at the regional level, but a passport office so established for that purpose. So it is not combined with another function. In the past, immigration officers would do their own core job and add passport as an additional responsibility. But this time around, it is the Ministry of Foreign Affairs establishing the office and taking absolute control and responsibility in the issuance of that. And all is in consonance with government policy of decentralization to extend these services to doorsteps of people, to reduce the hassle, the daily hassle, the frustration that is involved, in traveling from place to place, distant places, just to process a document that they are entitled to. It's an entitlement. It's not a privilege, to be issued to anybody. So it is to lessen their burden, to reduce the frustration of Ghanaians. That is why this service has been taken to, across the regions.
All right. So we've had the passport application centers in so far how many regions? I think we are doing all the regions.
Yeah, we are doing all the regions. We have 3 outstanding regions, excluding the 6 newly created regions. So the outstanding regions are Central Region, Upper East Region, and Upper West Region. And that is what the minister said yesterday in her statement, that by the first quarter of next year, 2020, we should be able to extend passport services to these 3 remaining regions and beyond.
So with the institution of PACs, the passport application centers, there have been some challenges. Now, one of them, I read, stated that sometimes you have the service, the online portals. This is a machine doing all the work. So you can imagine that sometimes there may be some hindrances or too much pressure on them. Somewhere in the Western region, they had a problem with one of the servers, and then it was out for a long time, but I think there was miscommunication somewhere, and so it created a number of problems for your office. Could you tell us, if any of the servers stops functioning, what do you do? Do we have measures in place to take care of those situations?
Thank you very much. Now, yes, it is true that we had a problem, a challenge with a server in our secondary office for a couple of weeks, unfortunately, before we were able to fix it. We take responsibility for the miscommunication that you mentioned. Yes, we should have put it out there to the general public that, hey, we have this challenge. So for this period, we will not be able to process your applications. Therefore, do not come there. But we're not communicating. And I regret that. Going forward, we should be able to handle a similar situation in a very better way. But it seems that we didn't have a plan B immediately. And this kind of challenge is quite rare. Even though we work with machines, we haven't encountered a total breakdown of a server in the past before. And this had to do with our attempts to try and migrate from the manual passport processing at the regional parks onto online. So it was in the process of putting the infrastructure for the online system that this server got damaged. Unfortunately, we couldn't fix it within the shortest possible time, and were unable, or we failed to communicate to the general public, thereby creating that confusion and frustration. Moving forward, we'll do things better. But now we are acquiring additional servers to place them here, so that as soon as we experience a similar challenge in any park, we'll quickly take a server here, move it there, bring the old one to head office, work on it, and return it. So what we are putting in place is to acquire additional service and just put them here as, backup, so that if there's a problem, we can quickly move them out. Many of our systems are quite old. We've been using systems which, were established since 2010. But fortunately, as you heard from the minister yesterday, there has been an ongoing effort to retool the entire passport office. So we are staggering the replacement and upgrading of systems, since all cannot be done at the same time, So acquiring new servers is part of that effort, okay? Acquiring new printers is part of the effort, so that we can arrest, or avoid uninterrupted, flow of passport processing and services to the general public. So there are a lot of things we are putting in place now, as plan B, to be able to mitigate some of these challenges when they rise.
All right. So then let's go back to the issue of middlemen. We know this is a human institution, and of course, loopholes are to be expected. We're talking about corruption. In this case, when any of the officers here goes contrary to the laid down rules of the organization, what is done about it? What are some of the measures that you have taken as an institution in curbing corruption in your organization?
Yes. First of all, it has been a constant refrain from management of the passport office to staff on the need to stay beyond reproach in terms of the discharge of their duties. Now, we know that people would approach them. People will use all kinds of tricks to get them. What we do is to appeal to their conscience, first of all. And then we indicate we have the measures in place that when you are caught, the problem has been that we don't get perpetrators just because the applicants or the victims do not come forward to identify people. The Ghanaian attitude, I don't want to spoil somebody's work. You understand? So you hear stories. I've received messages on WhatsApp that, somebody was demanding this amount of money to be able to facilitate the processing of a passport. And I reply, can you come forward to my office? But they don't turn up. They don't turn up. So it makes it difficult for us to be able to pinpoint people and flush them out. But we are ready that as and when we get somebody taking money, a staff taking money, it is going to be a police case. It won't be an administrative issue. Administrative issue is for you to write a query letter, reprimand, suspension, and all that. But if you take money, with the pretext of helping someone, that is bribery and corruption. So we'll make it a police case. And that is what we tell the staff. And the issue of middlemen is always front and center in our meetings. And this is the message I give to them, that if there's evidence, we are going to treat it like any other person, an outsider, who tries to, circumvent the system or, who tries to do something untoward. We are going to treat it the same. We are not going to handle it administratively. There have been many cases where middlemen have brought in people who are not qualified for Ghanaian passports. And these are foreigners. Now, foreigners are not only Nigerians. We always are under the impression that it's only foreign to Nigerians. You have Nigerians, that is people from Niger, Malians, Cameroonians, Burkinabes, who always try, they make attempts to acquire Ghanaian passports. But thankfully, in many cases, or many of the instances, we are able to apprehend them. Now, once we apprehend them, the middleman who was behind him then disappears. And it is difficult to track because when they are dealing with them and they even exchange numbers, they just give them a first name. My name is Kwame, with a number. You call that number, you will never get a middleman. And that middleman will never show up. And if the person is a foreigner who is not familiar with town, they wouldn't even know the person they are dealing with. All they know is Kojo Kwame. They give you a number, you try, nobody answers.
Don't you think that people still have the perception that the system is quite cumbersome? It is why they are still trying to get middlemen, even though you are preaching convenience and accessibility in partnership with the Foreign Affairs Ministry, and yet we are still having these issues lingering on. How best can you get it to the people or Ghanaians that it is very, very simple, and then this is how to go about it in getting a passport?
Yes. Thank you very much. I'm happy you said perception, that it is still cumbersome and tedious to acquire a passport. And it is through your medium that we can reach people. You understand? Our experience here is that even very well educated people do not take their time to even read guidelines and requirements of the passport. They don't have the time. They say, I'm a banker. When they come here, they want to bulldoze their way. I need to go back to the bank. So sometimes when I encounter them, I say, look, when I come to the bank, I don't tell you that I'm a director at the Foreign Ministry. Serve me, let me go back. I join the queue and wait for my turn. So if you come here, so because of these kinds of things, they simply find others who claim they can help to facilitate their passports. But people who have put that perception away and try to process passports on their own, to their surprise, they just go through. They go through without problems. Sometimes the problem has to do with because the person has not filled the form well or has not had a required document, you have to go back and work on that document and come back. So there's back and forth. But the burden or the responsibility lies with the applicant when your application is not correct. You know, if you bring a very correct application with the correct documents attached, you have no problem. But there are people who just don't want to wait. They don't have the time to spend to wait to process a passport. I go to DVLA and I have to wait in a queue, even though I have a job waiting for me at the office. But people are not willing to do that. So they try to find shortcuts. And they are prepared to pay any sum of money to anybody who claims they can process passports for them.
It's because they think the system frustrates them.
In 99% of the cases, they call applicants and tell them from the premium service. They do better than we do here, the premium service. And it has to do with premium. If it is premium, the services must be, you know, up there. You understand? So maybe, yes, there are a few cases in which there have been failures and omissions on the part of the Passport Application Center. But with the premium service, 99% of the time, they are able to reach their applicants to come for their passports. That's why they don't have issues of backlog. You know, they don't have issues of backlog of uncollected passports that are, you know, very common with the manual passport application centers, which we are now saddled with and trying to find ways of disposing them off. You know, so yes, there may be issues, but it is a work in progress. This feedback is very useful to us. We'll take it on board and then try and then sort out some of these issues, problems.
You mentioned uncollected passports or the backlogs. We will come to that now quickly. In trying to acquire a passport, we have the manual and then we have the online. Please explain to us for the sake of our viewers.
So, with regards to the online application process, currently we have 4 passport application centers which are designated for online services only. In fact, there are 4 in all, but one of the 4 still does manual alongside the online application, and that is the Accra Regional Passport Application Center located at the former Foreign Affairs building. But the other 3 are strictly online. Now, with the online application process, what the applicant starts with is to go to a bank. Now, there are 4 designated banks which are allowed to sell what we call a voucher for passport application in the country. And these banks are Ghana Commercial Bank, Agricultural Development Bank, EcoBank, and Fidelity Bank. These 4 are designated to sell the vouchers. So what do you do if you need a passport, a new passport, or to renew? Is to go to any of these branches of the bank, buy your voucher. The voucher has a code which would enable you access the online application system. Now, you then begin to complete the online application, and it is online, so you cannot download and print the form. You don't print a hard copy. You complete the form online, put in all the information, and when you are done, you then print the first page. That is what you require to present at the Passport Application Center. Now, with the online application center, once you begin to complete the form, it's done by appointment. So there are dates from which you pick that is convenient to you. And even the application centers are all listed there for you to choose which one is most convenient to you. And you must necessarily present yourself physically at the Passport Application Center for you to be processed. So you complete the form, you buy the voucher, go online, the Ministry of Foreign Affairs website, go to passports, complete the application online, present yourself, choose your pack, Passport Application Center, that is Tema, Kofredua, Premium Pack, and Accra Pack. These are the ones which process only online applications. So once you do that, you then present yourself physically or in person to the Passport Application Center for your biometrics to be taken and your picture to be taken. And once this is done, the Passport Center would then send electronically your application to the center, which is the Rich Passport Office. That's the headquarters of the Passport Office, where the vetting, electronic vetting is done to be sure that the information you have provided on the form is accurate and correct, to ensure that the documents you have attached to the application are genuine documents or are the required documents like a birth certificate and an old passport. And then after that, if the passport doesn't have issues, it goes to OK to print. But if it has issues from vetting, it moves to what we call superior intervention level. The superior intervention level, that means that there's a problem with the passport application itself. And the problems are varied. It could be that an officer who was capturing the data did not complete something, left out information. Or it could be that the one who was typing the data made a mistake in typing the applicant's name. So the passport will not pass electronically. It has to be corrected. Before it is corrected, it has to go to what we call superior intervention for an officer to then correct it. Once they correct it, it goes. Now, babies who are under 1 year, they cannot do fingerprints. So automatically, such applications all go to this, what we call superior intervention. It is now an officer who would clear them, pass them to make them okay for print. So once the passport doesn't have an issue, it goes after vetting, it goes straight to OK to print. And then the passports are printed and returned to the passport application center for delivery to the applicant.
Okay. So that is the online.
Yes.
Oh, what about the manual?
Yes. With regards to the manual, now all the 6 parks, Takrady Park, Ho Park, Tamale Park, Sunyani Park, Kumasi Park, and Accra Park, still issue the manual, process manual applications. With the manual application, you still have to go to the ministry's website, the passport link. You see manual form, PDF. You download the PDF form and print it. It's a 4-page form. So you print the hard copy, complete the form, attach your documents, and present yourself to any of the parks. So the manual system has nothing to do with appointments, no prior appointments, no dates, no time. You then walk into the passport application center in the morning, and all passport application centers operate from 8 o'clock till 5 p.m. So you present yourself with your form together with your documents physically, completed form, and then you go through the process. So with the manual, the application is not done online. It's only the form which is downloaded and printed, completed and carried by the applicant to the application center for processing.
So again, we have expedited service, and then we also have the regular service.
Yes, so we have 2 of those. With the expedited service, you pay 100 Ghana cedis. So when you go to the bank, that is, if you are going to do the online application, you go to the bank and you want to do expedited service, you pay 100 cedis for the voucher. You get a 100 cedis voucher, and that's for express or expedited service. And the express is 7 working days or 9 days in all for delivery of the passport. While the 50 Ghana cedis, which is for regular or ordinary processing, is 19 working days or 21 days.
Is that so?
Yes. In many cases, largely, is the case. Now, what we have realized is that people really do not understand. There are some who do not understand the concept of the express. When they say express, they believe it to be, I can get my passport within a day or 2 or 3. Express is not 1 day or 2 days or 3 days. It is 9 days, 7 working days. So they come here and put pressure. I paid express. And I say, yes, but you did your passport only yesterday or today. So express doesn't mean you should get it today. And they look frustrated, some of them. That is why we are now thinking of rolling out special express, if you may call it that way, so that people can have passports within 48 hours. We are yet to roll out that. We haven't started yet. But this is something that the minister has approved, has given the go-ahead, but that is yet to be, implemented. So as much as possible, we try. In fact, it even got to a point where we were printing 50 cedis applications within a week or 2, which is not acceptable. Because if you do that, then there's no incentive for somebody to buy a 100 cedis form or voucher. Yeah. You understand? So we realized that we were printing too many booklets, and this majority of the booklets we were printing were all 50 Ghana cedis, which wasn't right. So we've had to slow down on that. So the 50 works, the 100 works, we try as much as possible. Once the application has no issue, everything should work smoothly. Sometimes we have systems which are slow. So the passport is done 3 days ago and it's 100 cedis, but when you open the file, it is still at the beginning stage. It has nothing to do with human intervention. It has to do with the system which has been slow to push that system forward, to the next stage for the passport to be printed. But all in all, we try to stay within those, timelines for both the expedited and then the ordinary.
Okay, so let's come to the issue of uncollected passports. What happens to them?
Well, we keep them because the owners or the applicants do not come to collect them over a period of time. So as I speak to you, we have a bunch of uncollected passports at various parks. In fact, we are in the process of asking the various parks to collect all and send them to Accra, so that we can keep those which are expired. Those which are expired. Because if it is expired, you can no longer use it. So, and some of the offices in the regions are so small, there's no enough space. So we say, okay, we have space here. Those which are expired from 2010 to 2015, that will be up in 5 years. And then from 2013 to 2018, that will be 5 years up to December. They should gather all those expired ones and bring them here so that we can keep them because, they are expired. They will no longer go for them and they are occupying space. And then besides that, we had attempted to put out information of the uncollected passports, those which are not expired, for people to come for them. But we got a letter from Data Protection Commission that no, you are infringing on the rights of people by putting out all this information. So they wrote to the ministry and they proposed to meet with ministry's officials for them to take us through what can be done and what cannot be done, what is allowed and what is not allowed. So that is the process we are now. Once this is done, we will be able to publish out names strictly without further details that we had put out in the past, for which we had to stop. So we'll be doing that with, using your mediums, esteemed mediums like yours, the press, to ask people who have uncollected passports to come. At least once that we are going to, put away the expired ones, the capacity, the volumes will be lower for us to be able to manage to put out the information through electronic media and then the press so that people can come forward and pick their passports.
How about the people who are abroad, Ghanaians or diasporans? How do they get their passports renewed?
So, for example, if you recall, in the minister's statement yesterday, she informed the press that we have 6 designated missions which issue biometric passports. So if a Ghanaian lives within the jurisdiction of those designated missions, you can have a biometric passport processed. So what you do, you still go online, the ministry's website, download the form, the manual form, and then apply. Once you apply, you go to the application center, which is a mission like, say, London or Washington or Berlin, Abuja, Pretoria. These are the 6 designated missions. When you go there, they take you through the process. Now, when they take you through the process, they send the applications back to Accra for vetting. Because we have, if you recall, the passport office is made up of different government institutions. So we have the Immigration Service, BNI, CID, National Security, Control and Accountant General, all working with us here to ensure that it is only qualified Ghanaians who come for passports. So when they process them abroad, they send the applications to us. We have officers, dedicated officers, who vet them to make sure that the applications comply with all our requirements, and then send them as approved applications for them to go ahead and print. So those missions have the capacity to print there. We don't print and send them. All we do is to vet them because they don't have the capacity to vet. So we vet electronically and then send them back, and then they do the printing there and issue them out. Now, the other diplomatic missions which do not have the capacity to issue biometric passports still go ahead and issue the machine readable passport. And that's why you will see that many Ghanaians living abroad in the diaspora will be using the black passport, because the jurisdictions within which they live, the missions there are not empowered to issue biometric. So, but they have the machines to issue, in fact, to process them for. So what they do, you get a form, fill it, go to them, the diplomatic mission, say in Spain, Madrid. They will collect the forms, bring them to Accra for the passports to be processed. So the passports are actually processed here, unlike the biometric, which are processed abroad in those 6 missions. They are printed there. But these ones, we don't give them the printing capacity. So they bring them here, and we do the printing here and send them back to be given within the period. And that is done. There are officers designated for that. So all other missions issue machine-readable passports, while the 6 missions issue biometric passports within their jurisdictions.
So how long does it take for it to be done for them?
Again, if you pay for express, in the missions abroad, invariably people will pay for regular because they think it is very expensive. Because you pay in foreign currency, it is very expensive to.
But it's still a matter of preference, whether you want it to be express or you want it to be regular. Is that it?
Yes, it's still a matter of preference. If you can afford the express, you pay. And in which case, the officers there and the OIC there is obliged to ensure that that passport is given priority. But in many cases, we process passports within a month because majority of them, 99% of the passport applications from abroad are the regular type because of the cost, you understand? And we are able to meet that deadline. In fact, even ahead, if it is 21 days, within 2 weeks, the passports are printed for them because it's electronic, vetting we do. So you don't have to send anything physically through diplomatic pouch before we also send. So you send it today, it is vetted by tomorrow, it is gone back, and they print the passport. So it is even easier there for them.
All right. Thank you so much.